We're all around you, living right under your noses. And you have no idea. Things are a lot simpler in the old days. We hunted you, and you hunted us.
A young chauffeur picks up two mysterious women for a night of party hopping across LA. But when their true nature and a dangerous underworld are exposed, he must fight to survive until dawn. In the old days, vampires and humans hunted each other all over the world. In Los Angeles, the war became particularly fierce in the Boyle Heights neighborhood. Following the truce, the vampires had to uphold 3 rules: not to let the humans know that vampires exist, never feed upon the unwilling, and never enter Boyle Heights without permission. After the truce, vampires became creatures of legend, only appearing in literature and art, where the humans got most of the details about them wrong. Meanwhile, the creatures of the night thrived in secrecy, gaining power, influence, and wealth. The film never mentions its monsters as vampires, but that's clearly what they are supposed to be. They drink blood, and the sunlight is deadly for them. The story begins with Victor, a vampire who illegally enters Boyle Heights and abducts Jay Perez's girlfriend, Maria. Jay is an integral member of the community, and to find Maria, he declares war on Victor. The following day, Jay returns home to check on his half-brother, Benny, and grandmother, Rosa. Benny is an economics student who aspires to be a composer, while Jay works as a chauffeur for a private company that handles A-listed clients. To find Maria, Jay cancels his bookings, but Benny insists on covering up for him to earn a few extra bucks. Hesitantly, Jay agrees. There are several rules Benny must follow. He must wear a suit, avoid scratching the car, keep the music volume low, and pretend to be Jay. Jay also demonstrates how to start the car with a button on the keychain.
Hey, pay attention.
Benny heads to Beverly Hills to pick up 2 women, Blair and Zoe, who give him 5 addresses and instruct him to attend every single party tonight and arrive at the last location by morning with no room for negotiation. At their first destination, Benny notices the women entering the building after scanning a special button. Meanwhile, Jay discusses with a friend his guilt over disrupting the peace that has lasted 3 generations. His friend points out that it's Victor's fault for breaking the rules and initiating a conflict with Boyle Heights. They prepare their weapons as the rest of their group arrives, deciding to find and eliminate Victor before morning. Meanwhile, Benny falls asleep in the car and is jolted awake by a scream. Curious, he gets out and finds a special button on the ground, which he pockets. A van in the distance, equipped with a crossbow, watches him, but Benny doesn't notice it as the women return and want to leave. Benny drives them to the second party and waits in the parking lot while reading for college. He is distracted by Zoe's phone ringing. Although he tries to ignore it, he notices a message from Victor asking about Jay. Worried, Benny attempts to call his brother, but only reaches the voicemail. He decides to investigate further by searching through Zoe's bag, where he finds a large amount of blood-stained cash. Alarmed, especially when a police car arrives, Benny sneaks out of the parking lot, avoiding the cop, and enters the hotel.
How may I help you?
The concierge is initially skeptical and attempts to call security, explaining it's a members-only establishment, but changes her mind when she sees Benny holding the special button. After scanning it and hearing Benny inquire about Zoe and Blair, she directs him to an exclusive floor with a special key. Benny enters the room at the end of the hallway and discovers Zoe and Blair draining the blood from 2 men tied to rotating tables. Zoe, using supernatural speed, quickly confronts Benny, pinning him against the wall and mocking his fear. Benny reveals his true identity and explains he's substituting for his brother, which Zoe had already suspected. Although Zoe wants to drink Benny, Blair intervenes, suggesting he could be useful for leading them to Jay. Their conversation is interrupted when one of the men wakes up and realizes his partner is dead, which violates the rules. Blair feeds on him and kills the man. Terrified, Benny rushes back to the parking lot and tries to inform the cop about the murders. When he mentions the killings, the officer cuffs him and tries to force him into the trunk. Shortly after, he releases him when the girls return and claim Benny as theirs. The officer, aware of the vampire society and its rules, is told by the girls that Benny misinterpreted what he saw but remains suspicious due to not receiving any calls about collectors. The girls suggest he contact Victor if he doubts their story before leaving with Benny. Zoe Zoe then destroys Benny's phone when he tries to text for help. As they drive around again, Benny attempts to escape at a red light, but Zoe uses her speed to force him back into the car. Meanwhile, Victor is at his house, drinking blood from a tap connected to humans held in glass chambers. Victor then heads to his superior's home, where he meets vampires Eva and Grace. They reprimand him for his recklessness and inform him they must now kill him for breaking the truce.
Oh, I think you've misunderstood.
Victor admits he is tired of living in the shadows and feeling restricted by the truce, which is why he has sent his girls to eliminate all the vampire leaders. Now, everything belongs to him, with Eva and Grace being next on his list. Back in the car, Blair explains to Benny what's happening. Zoe is Victor's girlfriend, and she and Blair manage money across various businesses and blood clubs. Since Victor is fed up with his lack of real power, they are now making their move. 5 major figures control most of the key territories in LA, and they must eliminate them all in one night to avoid capture. Jay leads a crew dedicated to protecting Boyle Heights and knows how to deal with vampires. Victor tried to enlist Jay to eliminate the bosses, but after Jay declined, the plan was for the girls to hire him and deliver him to Victor by the end of the night. However, they ended up with Benny instead. He refuses to reveal his brother's location to Blair, so she abandons the question and shares a joint with him instead. Meanwhile, Zoe is on the phone with Victor, who has just finished killing Eva and Grace. The plan is proceeding smoothly, but Zoe has no choice but to inform Victor that they have the wrong driver.
He gives good blood.
Victor tells her he'll handle Jay himself, and that she should keep Benny as insurance. Jay and his crew visit one of the bosses, 𝐭𝐤, because he is involved with Victor and might know where he is. They discover the mansion filled with vampire corpses. With only 𝐭𝐤 left alive, he reveals Victor's scheme and the involvement of his girls and mentions their next destination before attempting to bite Jay. Jay responds with gunfire. Benny and the girls stop at a convenience store for snacks, and Benny admits to Zoe that he's attracted to Blair. While they're dancing, Zoe suspects the clerk is watching and calling someone, so she confronts him aggressively. Find out he is merely speaking to his mother. After Blair silences him with tape, they leave for their next stop, a highly exclusive bar. There, Benny suggests they go their separate ways and promises not to say anything about them. Zoe sarcastically agrees with him, saying they can trust him.
You're gonna stick around a little while longer, Benny boy.
So she threatens him with violence if he attempts anything. They proceed directly to the door, bypassing the queue. When Benny is about to follow, he sees his classmates at the front of the line, and they ask him to get them in. He tells them he can't, and they mock him when they realize he's working as some kind of servant. Blair rescues him from the embarrassment by kissing him and telling the classmates to find someone else to bother. She then orders the security guard to send them to the end of the line, which he does despite their protests. Meanwhile, Jay and his crew are also gaining entry by bribing another guard. Inside the club, Benny and the girls enter a secret room but find it empty of the vampire boss. Instead, a vampire hunter awaits them with a crossbow, as now that the truce is broken, they can go all out. Zoe tries to intimidate him, but the hunter summons his team, all armed. When he commands his men to kill the girls, Benny uses a bottle of champagne to create a diversion, allowing the vampires to eliminate the entire team while he stares at a cut on his hand from the bottle. The trio exits the club and is spotted by Jay, who tries to follow them to rescue his brother, but is blocked by another vampire. Jay dispatches him with a special knife that incinerates his body, and as he leaves the club, a vampire hunter tries to recruit him. He refuses, stating he only wants Victor, not to kill the entire vampire race. As they drive away, a cop stops them to inform Jay that Victor is waiting for him and that his brother sends his regards. Benny drives the girls to his grandmother's house and asks them to be quiet to not wake her up.
Well, this is quaint.
Suddenly, Rosa attacks them with a bat, thinking they're burglars. When she sees Benny's injured hand, she drags him to the kitchen to stitch and bandage it, and Blair decides to help. While Zoe calls Victor from the bathroom to update him, Benny retrieves one of Jay's knives from the box and finds Blair listening to his music, which she enjoys. Benny shares his dream of succeeding as a composer, and in return, Blair recounts how she met Zoe in the 70s. She was the one who turned Zoe and gave her a new life. Having bonded, Blair wants to leave Benny behind, but Zoe refuses. It doesn't matter, as Benny is determined to stay with them. Jay meets Victor at an empty restaurant. After some discussion about the broken truce, Jay shoots Victor in the head, but the wound quickly heals as Victor admits to killing Maria. Benny and the girls head to their final location to meet the last boss, Rocco. He welcomes them inside and, after taunting Benny, points out that they've shown up uninvited. Zoe pretends to be interested in seducing him to distract him, so Blair and Benny leave to sit by the pool where they start kissing after another heartfelt conversation. However, Blair interrupts to reveal that Victor has Jay. Inside the building, Zoe attempts to stab Rocco, but he has already anticipated their arrival and calls for reinforcements. As the girls engage in combat, Benny rushes outside, starts the car, and runs over a vampire hunter in the street. Blair and a wounded Zoe get into the car after fighting off more hunters. Afterward, Benny takes them to Victor's mansion, the destination of their night-long journey. Zoe is severely wounded, and the sun is coming up. They barely manage to reach Victor's home while there are still shadows around the house. Knowing that his brother might be in there, Benny wants to go inside, but Blair seemingly convinces him that the moment he does that, Victor will kill him. Regardless, he sneaks inside moments later. He finds Jay, drugged and placed inside the glass chamber to drain blood from him. However, before he can rescue his brother, Victor finds him. Seeing Victor has captured Benny, Blair decides to rebel against them. Zoe, upset by the betrayal, stabs Blair in the stomach. Benny takes the opportunity to ram the car through the glass window with the keychain, as he had put a rock on the car accelerator, exposing Zoe to the sunlight and killing her. Victor uses Jay to draw Benny from the sunlight so he can try to kill him. He then bites into Benny's throat and leaves a large wound, practically sealing Benny's fate. Blair tries to stop Victor by stabbing him, but the injuries prove to be ineffective. Eventually, Jay tackles Victor into the sunlight, turning the latter into dust. As for Benny, he isn't dead. While he does come close to death due to blood loss, Blair turns him into a vampire by feeding him her blood. In the final moments of the film, Benny meets up with his brother. With the deaths of the vampire bosses, the world has changed. As Jay warns Benny, everyone will have to pick a side. Although his younger brother is no longer a human, Jay urges him to remember where he came from. Benny replies saying he knows where home is, and gives Jay a bag of money before leaving. It seems that the world is heading toward a war, where the two brothers will be on opposite sides. Benny's body starts to undergo various changes. While sitting at the library, he can suddenly sense the blood coursing through a classmate's veins. He has already become sensitive to sunlight and started wearing a hoodie while he is outside. The film ends as a new chapter in Benny's life begins. Although it's still a mystery where it will lead him, what is certain is that he and Blair will have each other wherever they go. Did this story spook you out? Let us know in the comments below. For more horror movie recaps, subscribe to our channel and we will see you in the next one. Fear awaits you.